Good Wednesday to you, everybody, in GOV 603. Welcome to, are you ready for it? Week, boom, bam, 15. Week 15. Lord, you have almost made it. Hang in there. You are doing great. All right, stay motivated, stay caffeinated. How is everyone doing? You doing okay? I know this is a busy time of the year, not just with this class, but with others. So if there's any, if you're running, I mean, sometimes we run into difficulties during the semester. There's been some of you that, have been communicating with me. Your health is not good. You have family members who are having problems. Please reach out to me if you need adjustments to the schedule, or there's anything that I can do for you, and let me know, before you need the help. Okay. A couple of things before we get to your questions and answers from last week, week 14, right? And then this week, the questions and answers are really straightforward. They're, again, I want you to focus in on your writing as you're finishing your papers and things that you can do to make those the best product possible. But remember, your paper is due on the 21st. That is 2 days from now. Okay, if you go into the assignments folder, all right, you'll see a little link and it'll say upload right here. That's where you click on and you upload it right there. All right. And remember to make the corrections in paper number 1. All right. Because if you make the corrections and if you score better, I will change your grade. Right? Only if you go up. Okay, somebody emailed me and asked me that and said, "Well, what if we don't do as well on the second part as the first part?" And I said, that's okay. I mean, it's not okay because you want to do better, but it's not going to affect your grade. Only if you do better, then I raise your score. Now, to give you sort of a little indicator as to how this works. Here's how I grade your papers, your second part. I open up a split screen. I put the paper from part 1, your paper from part 1 on one side, and then your paper from part 2. And I sort of read back and forth across the line, go, okay, fix that, change that, stop doing that, did more of that, did less of that. And that's how I make the evaluation that you're moving forward, because writing is rewriting. It's a process. And then when you score higher, I go back and change the grade on that first bit. All right. So if you weren't happy with that score, don't worry. You've got a way to fix it. All right. But you've only got 2 days to fix it. So, okay. In addition to your paper, you have your final examination coming up on April 27th. That's a week from tomorrow. The exam will open up on the 27th and then close on the 28th. You've got 24 hours. Okay. And, it's got 50 questions, 4 points apiece. You get 120 minutes to do it. Same format as the last time, as the midterm. And read that final exam preparation sheet, the PDF that's attached to that box in the assignments folder. Right now, not every single thing that we covered is in that sheet. All right. But again, as I've said before, the way to prepare for this exam, go back and read the Blackboard posts, be very familiar with the terms, the concepts, not just being able to identify them, like just some sort of a raw definition, like, oh, ANOVA, I know what that means. That's analysis of variance. But be able to explain that. So if you had like a fill in the blank or a short answer, all right. And, I was asking you, what sort of test would you use if you wanted to establish causation as opposed to correlation? And you go, oh, okay. So that would have to be a regression analysis. Okay. So you understand what the thing does, not just how to define the term. Does everybody understand that? Okay. And again, if you have any questions about the final exam or the final paper, all right, please get in touch with me before, all the stuff's due. Then I can help. Okay, let's take a look at the questions from last week, week number 14. Let's see if we can shed any light on what you said and on what you're doing. I gave you a choice for the first question. I said from table 10.2 in chapter 10 of Powner. I'll select one of the three sentences listed or listed sentences, A, B, or C. Copy the sentence, then print it, then correct the sentence by hand with a pen, and then take a picture and upload it. All right. So you could have done a whole bunch of stuff here. All right. There were a number. Rebecca, I like what you're doing here. Let's take a look at you. You took the sentence. There are a multitude of explanations for why rain brings down the turnout of Democrat voters, as argued by Johnson, 2023. Yeah, what a mouthful. See, first of all, it's passive. And secondly, it's tremendously wordy. So, Rebecca, you reword it very nicely, and you put it into APA format. Johnson, parentheses 2003, argues there are, and by the way, when I said rewrite, I didn't mean you had to use the same word, so you could chuck some out. Okay, argues there are, and by the way, the inclusion of the word that, it's interesting, because language is always evolving. The inclusion of the word that seems to be falling out of favor. I'm going to drink something cool because it's hot in my office. Okay. So you could have written argues that there are, or even more direct, which is what you want, argues there are numerous explanations for why rain lowers Democrat voter turnout. Boom. Very nice. So this is what you're aiming for in rewriting sentences. Number one, clarity. And the active voice is perhaps the quickest route to that. But then number two, brevity. Get rid of unnecessary verbiage. If you start with the active voice, you tend to eliminate a lot of unnecessary verbiage anyway. And then, you sort of work your way out from there. Okay. So clarity and brevity. Let's see if we can pull up somebody else's here. I thought I had yours open, Andrew. But for some reason, it doesn't seem to be wanting to come up. Okay. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on. We'll come back to it. Okay, let's take a look at question number 2. Okay, please explain how you should write up the results of a regression analysis. In doing so, please list and define all of the standard symbols, NP or NRP, et cetera, for regression analysis. Now, there were some of you that took this question to mean, how do you write up results for a whole bunch of different stuff? So like some of you gave the write-up for an ANOVA and for a t-test. And no. I'm just asking about regression analysis. I'm not going to take points away, but remember, this is so important. When you're writing a paper, you'll be submitting to journals, you'll be going to conferences, you'll be writing white papers that'll be opinion papers. Okay, you might be writing legal briefs. Some of you that go on to law school. Just follow the directions. Okay, Michael. Let's see. Regression analysis, 5 necessary elements are N, the sample size, the R value, the correlation between observed and predicted values of dependent variables, R squared, variance of dependent variable due to the independent variable, P value, the measure of significance, it's indicated null hypothesis is rejected or not, or if the hypothesis is rejected or not, whichever you want to look at it, okay? S, the value, the measure of the standard error representing the average distance that observed values fall from the regression line. Okay, great. And that's pretty much it. Okay. Now, when I'm doing regression, and if any of you in future are doing regression, the value that I pay closest attention to is the R squared. I mean, first of all, I want to see if there's any significant effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable or variables. If I'm doing, more than one. Okay, is it having any significant impact? And then I want to look at the percentage that R squared, because you take that number and multiply it by 100, it'll give you the percentage of whatever the outcome is in the dependent variable. People did this, people thought that. that's being driven by, that's being caused by the independent variable. Now that number, don't be fooled. It's not often tremendously high. All right. And what this tells you is that, there's rarely a single cause for events. So if you get if you get an R squared that jumps up around 20%, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That tells you that there's really something going on there, and pay attention to that. Okay. All right. So going back to question number 1, I said that for some reason I was having a hard time, Andrew, getting your work to come up. Well, here it is right now. Okay. So you took the sentence, if it is necessary to look for the causes that underlie this conflict, argued Sheldon, again, if passive, then we have to we have to look back all the way to the end of the Roman Empire. Okay. And avoid is it word not needed. Okay, you got all kinds of crossed out here and all kinds of good stuff. So here's your correction. Sheldon, and now we're back into APA format. Excellent. Sheldon, 1986, argues we must look back to the end of the Roman Empire for causes that underlie this conflict. Okay, that's good. I mean, you could have flipped it and said argues the causes that underlie this conflict date back to the Roman Empire, and you can just take out the we look entirely. That's fine. But what you have here is subject, verb, object, direct and indirect. Objects, direct and indirect. Perfect. All right. Excellent. And that's exactly what we want. We want clarity, and then we want brevity. Okay. Let's go on to question number 3. And does everybody understand the elements that go with a regression, reporting aggression analysis? Because I can suggest to you, you may see those questions again. You may see the request to identify a certain, element and say what it means, maybe on an impending exam. Wink, wink. Okay, everybody get what I'm saying? Okay. Question number 3. The 8 items in the delivery structure for a paper, which one do you believe is most important for a research paper as a whole and its presentation? In your answers to this question, he says as the ice clinks in his glass, they intrigued me. Because there were a number of you who said, well, I think they're of equal importance. Some of you said the title, or at least one of you said the title, which I don't disagree with you that a title catches the viewer and brings them in and want to read, but I hate to burst your bubble. But go to a couple of conferences, or read some of these journals. And, if the title is most important, a lot of titles could use some work. So, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I'm just telling you that that's an area that does not get a whole lot of attention. Well, many of you said that you believe most important is the research question, which answers the what puzzle gap or whole motivation for this research. That's true. When I scan through abstracts, I am immediately looking for what kind of questions is this researcher asking. Because one of the first things that I want to know is there anything being asked or answered here that's of interest to me in what I'm researching and what I'm doing? And if the answer is no, then, on I go. And I don't often, it happens often that I don't read the paper. Okay. Some of you said the introduction. This is important. You can have an introduction that meanders a bit. If I had to rank them in order of importance, the paper's findings are tremendously important, and this too should be reported in the abstract. These are the questions answered. This is how we answered them. These are the findings. And I can, by going immediately to an author's finding, I can tell a lot. about their methodology, about how widely they did or did not research this topic, about how not only do they accumulate data, but how do they handle it and analyze it. Now, this is not exactly a trick question, but one of the things that I want you to watch for, especially when you're being presented with results from a survey, and you see this, oh my goodness, you see this in political science. The survey said that blank amount of that, this many percentage people had this opinion of so-and-so or so-and-so's policies, a presidential opinion poll or whatever. Okay. Get to the sampling, right? Who did they ask? So get to the questions, research questions, and then get to the sampling. See if the sampling has any pronounced bias in it. So this is done so frequently in a partisan way. If you're seeing a poll that says, so many people want to see Donald Trump locked up, get to the sampling. Who did they ask? And number one, if they don't identify from whence these opinions came, or number two, they do not ask about political leaning. That is, what party do you identify with? How do you tend to vote? Excuse me, my nose is itching. All this sort of stuff. And sometimes they don't, or they'll hide it. Okay, that's a dead giveaway to you as a reader that this is not research that's to be trusted. Now, I don't say they're making it up out of whole cloth. That's not what I mean when I say not trusted. I say fake news. That's not what I'm getting at. But you, as a researcher, should be very careful about citing it as a source, or you, as a reader, should be very careful about citing it and and then touting it. I have to say, as a quantitative researcher and instructor in the area, I'm highly amused when I see debates. There's some conservative speaker, and he's at some college campus, and he's talking about, and you can insert your topic du jour. It's abortion, or it's immigration, or it's issues of sex and gender. Okay, and then somebody steps up to the mic during the Q&A section, and they say, well, you say that people regret. I'm not trying to play political, but I'm just grabbing something here. You say that people, once they're given gender affirming treatment, whether that be surgery or hormones, and I'm not particularly crazy about the terminology gender affirming, but that's a different discussion. But anyway, you say that their suicidal ideation rate doesn't go down. I have a study right here in my hand, and they whip out this paper that proves that it does go down, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, you know what I would love for the presenter to do is ask the person waving that paper around. Oh yeah, okay. What's the end value for that study? What was it? Was it a randomized selection? What's the confidence interval? What kind of external validity can we draw? Were there regression analyses done? Was there linear regression? What was the R squared? In other words, ask the person who's touting the study if they know, if they're equipped with the right information, background, and understanding to evaluate the validity of the study. Because outside of that, you're like Neville Chamberlain waving a paper. I have secured peace in our time. Herr Hitler signed this paper. That doesn't mean anything. Herr Hitler's going to run his tanks over Poland as soon as you turn your back. He doesn't care about a paper that he signed. So be careful about hanging your hat in doing your research, or for all of us, in opening our mouths and just waving some study that somebody did. Take a look. What is in their data set? Where'd they get this from? Okay. Does the researcher that's doing it understand how this works? And do you understand what they did? What's their methodology? What's their reported results? What questions did they seek to answer? What questions did they ask to gather data to seek to answer. So you circle around those things. That'll get you to the heart of the difference between beef and bologna, as it were. Okay. All right, everybody. So short week, only 3 questions for you this time. All right. So finish your papers, upload those. Go to the assignment folder, get ready, study for the exam. All right. If you have any questions or anything that's popping, reach out to me. I am here to help you. All right. Because I think about you. I pray about you. I want you to have a great rest of the week and a great rest of the semester. Okay. I'll see you on Blackboard. God bless. Bye-bye.